All right, good day, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Paramount, a go-to destination for orthopedic insight and practical knowledge skills. I welcome you all to this channel once again. This is where I give you updates concerning the conservative management of fractures in orthopedic system, and that is what I will continue to do. All right. I've highlighted in my previous lecture that there's going to be that we are going to be having 8 weeks lectures that we're going to be talking about bones, management of bones. What are the things you need to know about your bone? How you should take care of your bones very well, and what are the things that you should be putting there to last longer for a last longer bone. So as you are getting older, as you are aging, your bones should be getting stronger by day. That is why we are here for you, and that is why you are here on this channel. So this is the right channel for you. So today I'm going to be talking about the lecture one, the first week lecture. I'm going to be talking about the formation of bones, the bone formation. Now, talking about if you are an orthopedic student, or you are a technician, or you are a technologist, and you are finding it difficult, or you're not surprised that okay, if they ask you and say, come and tell us how this bone is formed. You're talking about bones here, you're talking about bones there, you're talking about bones generally, but there should be a system of bringing this bone to a writing. There should be a system of bringing this bone as okay, this is how bones are formed. This is how bone came to existence, and that is why I'm here today. The first thing you need to understand about the concept of bone formation is bone formation can also be called bone ossification. So when we talk about ossification of bone, we are actually talking about the formation of bones. So if you don't want to call it ossification of bone, you can call it osteogenesis. So you can call it bone ossification, or you call it bone osteogenesis. We're actually talking about the same thing. There's something called germ layer, which gives rise to other organs in the body. There are three in number. Germ layer, there are three in number. The first one we have is called endoderm. The second one we have mesoderm, and the third one we have ectoderm. Now, the concept of the bone we are actually talking about is going to fall on the aspect of mesoderm. So out of the three, we have the endoderm, we have the mesoderm, we have the Now, mesoderm is where the bone is formed. Then under this mesoderm, there's something we call mesenchyme stem cell. You can call it a mesenchyme stem cell. You can call it a mesenchyme. Now, this mesenchyme will be the one to give us all the answers we want to talk about under the aspect of bone formation. Now, mesenchyme is divided into two. It can be differentiated into two. It can either be bone or cartilage. You have to follow very well. Now, the first one is what we call chondroblast. The first one under mesenchyme is what we call chondroblast. And the second one is what we call osteoblast. Now, under the chondroblast, we have the cartilage. Then under the osteoblast, we have the bone. There are two things if you want to talk about bones, how bones are formed. There are two things you cannot neglect. Those are bones and cartilages. So these are the two things that are going to be combining together as to understand the fact that bones are formed through some things, and bones formation came through many things. All right. So having said that, mesenchyme is divided into two, which is chondroblast, which is cartilage, and also osteoblast, which is bone cells. All right. So you have to understand some simple things before we go on. The concept of osteoblast, the concept of osteoclast, and the concept of osteocytes. Now, when we talk about osteoblast, very simple. Osteoblast is the one that forms bones, new bones. When new bones are formed, that is osteoblast. Very simple. Then you have osteocytes. Osteocytes are the one that maintains. Now, when osteoblast forms, osteocyte maintains. And the third one is what we call osteoclast. Osteoclast destroys. That's his own work. So when you want to form new bones, you call on osteoblast. When you're about to maintain you use osteocyte. Then when it has to do with destruction, that is osteoclast for you. All right. So those are the tips we are going to be using in the lecture. So one other thing that you need to understand is that bone tissue can be divided into two. Bone tissue, we have a compact bone and we have a cancellous bone. Compact bone can also be called a dense bone, a rigid one. Then cancellous bone can also be called a spongy bone. So those are the two tissues of bone tissue. All right. So when we talk about bone ossification, we are into ossification of bones now. Formation of bones, I've said. Now I want to talk about ossification of bones. Bones ossification can be divided into two. So these are the areas that you need to be very careful and you be very patient very well. Ossification of bone can be divided into two. Number one is what we call intramembranous ossification. and we have endochondral ossification. Number one is intramembranous, and number two is endochondral. So these are, every part of bone formation lies in these two aspects. Apart from these two, I don't think there's other formation of bones again. All right, so the first one I'm going to be talking about intramembranous. I'm going to be talking about intramembranous, then I will talk about endochondral. Now, you need to understand this, that both intramembranous and endochondral ossification, there's one thing that gives power to them, and that's what we call mesenchyme. I've talked about mesenchyme in the first place. Now, either the bone will pass through intramembranous or the bone will pass through endochondral. It has to be powered through what we call mesenchyme. So mesenchyme will give rise to intramembranous bone, and also will give rise to endochondral. Now, intramembranous now. After intramembranous ossification, the mesenchyme will turn to bones directly. There is no need for cartilages under this process, under this ossification. No, there's no cartilages. No cartilages are involved. And there are some bones in the body that falls under this intramembranous ossification. Bones, some of the bones of the cranial bones, both cranial and the facial bones, they falls under this category of ossification. Also, the bones of the clavicle, it falls under this category. So, any bone that we can find under intramembranous, that means in their formation state, no cartilages are involved. That's why we call them intramembranous ossification. So, very quickly, how do they form under intramembranous ossification? The first thing that we have, I have told you that mesenchyme stem cell will be the one to power both intramembranous and endochondral. So the mesenchyme will produce something called osteoblast. It is this osteoblast, inside the osteoblast, something will form, which is called the osteoid. What is this osteoid? Osteoid is the matrix before the mineralization will start. It will be at the center of the osteoblast. Then osteoblast will continue to secrete multiple osteoid. Now, as they are being secreted over time, most of them will be trapped, and when they are trapped, they will be converted to osteocytes. As this is where we call ossification center. As the osteoblast is secreting the osteoid, they will surround the blood vessel, and when they surround the blood vessel, there's going to be a production of trabecular or cancellous bone, that is soft bone, spongy bone, and these are the areas that form the red bone marrow. Now, listen very well. Other mesenchyme that does not turn to bone will form something we call periosteum. What is periosteum? Periosteum are those things that covers the bone. So those sides will form periosteum, and others will form the cancellous bone that are inside. So the periosteum covers the bone. The inside the periosteum we have what we call compact bone, the strong bone. The inside the compact bone we have the spongy bones, which is the cancellous bone. So these are the things that happen under the intramembranous ossification. One thing that you should understand there is that under intramembranous, there is no cartilage. No cartilages are involved under intramembranous. The mesenchyme turns to bone directly under intramembranous ossification. So when we get to endochondral now, that is what we now talked about cartilages. So like I've said, we have two bone ossifications. We have the intramembranous and we have the endochondral. So they are very simple. Just watch closely as you follow. Now, I've talked about the intramembranous, which is going to be talking about the concept of formation of bones without cartilages, and I've told you those bones that are involved. Now, the second one is talking about endochondral. From the word chondra, is talking about cartilages generally. So, in this process, in this formation, we need to talk about cartilages very well, because under this, the mesenchyme will turn to cartilage before the cartilage are replaced by bone. So that's going to be the process. It's going to be a little bit wider than intramembranous under endochondral ossifications. All right, so one thing you need to understand there is that cartilages do not turn to bone; they are replaced by bone generally. So how do this happen? Now, under endochondral ossification, mesenchyme will give rise to what we call chondroblast. That is what it will give rise to. Then it is this chondroblast that will now secrete what we call cartilage tissue. That is where the concept will start. The cartilage will form like a bone. It will give the shape of a bone, but it's not a bone. It is still in cartilage form. So it is the cartilage form. And what we now cover that cartilage is what we call perichondrium. You know, I talked about the other time that I said the other time that what covers the bone is periosteum. But this time around, when the whole thing has not even turned from being a cartilage to a bone, it's still at the cartilage stage. It is called perichondrium. Now that's where we cover that's where we cover the cartilage. You know, it's at the cartilage stage. It has not started. So the process will now start. Now at this process, you know, cartilage under this kind of ossifications, this will give rise to some bones in the body. After the completion, now we talked about those bones that falls under the endochondral ossification. Now, at the center, something will form at the center. There's going to be a formation of chondrocytes at the center. Those chondrocytes will form near the center of that cartilage. It will form inside the lacunae. Now, chondrocytes will form at the center. Perichondrium will cover them. We cover the whole cartilage. While chondrocytes will form at the center. When the process is about to start, you know, we are actually going from mesenchyme to cartilage, then from cartilage to bone now. When the whole process will now start, the chondrocytes that I talked about that is at the center of the cartilage, they will swell. After the swelling has occurred, there will be vacuum. There's something that happened to them that made this thing to happen to them. There's something called hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is what happened to the chondrocytes, which made them to swell up and made them to have vacuum inside. Now, after that, what happened? After that scene happened, there's one thing that will form at the center of the bone, at the center of the cartilage, rather, at the center of the cartilage, it will be highly vascularized. That means the time has come when the cartilages will be transformed into bone. So when we talk about the perichondrium, now perichondrium will be replaced by periosteum. You know, periosteum has something to do with bone, while perichondrium has something to do with cartilage. But now the shaft, the midline has been vascularized. So the whole process is about to start concerning the conversion of the cartilage into bone. Now at the center, something will be formed. It is called subperiosteal bone collar. Subperiosteal bone collar will be formed at the center. So this is a semi-aspect of the periosteal bone that will be later be formed. Now, when this forms, there will be a problem. The problem that will occur is that the nutrient that is to come, that's supposed to come to the cartilage tissue at the center of the chondrocyte, will not be coming again because the bones that are just forming will be blocking it. So when this happens, you know, I told you what happened to the chondrocyte is what we call hypertrophy. Hypertrophy will make nutrient to be coming to the tissue, to the cartilage tissue again, and something will be produced. And hypertrophic cartilage cell will be produced. Hypertrophic cartilage cell, it will be the one to compress the cartilage cell at the center, so as because the nutrients will not be coming to that particular place very well. And this hypertrophic cartilage cell that is produced will actually release two things. It will release two things. It will produce two things. It will produce type 10 collagen and osteocalcin. So those two things, when they are produced, type 10 collagen and osteocalcin, when those two things are produced, they are produced by the hypertrophic cartilage cell. They will make sure that the nutrients are not coming to the cartilage tissue inside again. So when the nutrients are not coming there, they will die. The chondrocyte will die. So when the chondrocyte is dead, there will be vacuum, there will be empty spaces in the vacuum at the center of the cartilage. Now this is where the process will now start. After the death of the chondrocyte, those places will be left free. Now the concept of osteoclast is coming to the picture. You know, I told you in the first place that you have osteocytes, osteoblast, and osteoclast. Osteoclast, when it has to do with destruction of some things, that's where osteoclast comes in. Then osteoclast will be produced at the center, which will be destroying some things there. Osteoclast will be destroying some things that are at the center, and then something called medullary cavity will be formed at the center. When those things are formed at the center, now osteoblast will now come. You know, osteoblast has something to do with formation of new bones. Then, as the osteoclast has been destroying those aspects, has been destroying the cartilages there, and has formed medullary cavity, the osteoblast will come and start forming new bones. New bones will begin to form at the center, and when they are formed, they will be going gradually. You know, they are formed at the center, they will be going up, and at the same time, they will be going down. They will be replacing the cartilages one after the other So we'll be having cartilages and we'll be having bone at the center. So the cartilages will be replaced by bones. Bones will be going up and bones will be going down. A typical example of it is a long bone. So the bones will be going up. You just notice when you see them, the cartilages will not be at the center again. Those cartilages at the center will be replaced by bone, which is osteoblast. So they'll be replacing them. The bones will be going, it will be going up and it will be going down. And it will be going up and it will be going down. And how a child grows. How a child grows is when a child is going to be growing and the bone is going to be elongating. The cartilage will be increasing. As the cartilage increases, it will be replaced by bones. As the cartilage increases, it will be replaced by bone. That is why when you give birth to a child will grow and the child will be increasing in height. Before a child can increase in height, the cartilage must extend. When the cartilage extends, the bone will feel it. The moment the cartilage stops extending, the bone cannot go anywhere again. That is why an individual will stop growing in height. So when an individual is reaching 25th age, 25 years now, is expected, the cartilages there are not expected to grow again. That is why anatomically and scientifically proven that when you reach age 25, you are not expected to increase in height again, because at that stage, the cartilages will not be going again, will not be increasing. So the bone also will just stay there. The bone will not be increasing again. Now, I talked about the center the other time. So that center where the medullary cavity is formed and the bone starts, that is what we call primary ossification center. That is what we call primary ossification center. Now, after birth, when they give birth to a child now, the secondary ossification will continue. Where the secondary ossification starts is, we have at the center, we have a long bone as a typical example of it. Then the bones, the cartilages will be replaced by bone. They will be going up, they will be going down. Then we'll be having two cartilages at the end of the day. One will be at the top, the one will be at the base. So we have two cartilages one cartilage at the top, one cartilage at the base. No, if you want to describe bones, long bones as a case study now, we have epiphysis and we have diaphysis. We have two epiphysis, we have one diaphysis. Now, at the top of each long bone and at the base of the long bone, those are what we call epiphysis. So we have two epiphysis at the top, epiphysis at the bottom. And now at the center, that's where we have diaphysis. So at the diaphysis center is where primary ossification center began. Now, secondary ossification will start at the epiphysis, which is the top and the base. So that is why secondary ossification will start. So when the child is given birth to, how the child will continue growing, how the child will increase in length, depends on how fast the cartilages are moving and they are getting replaced by bones. So when a child will reach some certain age, some certain stage, the cartilages will not be growing again. So it will now stay at the edge of that bone, which is at the epiphysis. So it will now be attaching to other bones in the body. So these are the brief explanation where you can get as an orthopedic student and as a technician and as a technologist, where you can get the hints concerning how bones came to existence, how they are developed in the body. And bones that falls under this endochondral ossification includes all long bones in the body, that they include cartilage. They are formed in cartilage before they are turned to bones. That's endochondral ossification. Bones like humerus, bones like ulnar radius, bones like tibia fibula, bones like femur in the body, and also bones like ribs. They are endochondral ossification bones. So when you have any bones in the body that actually turn to cartilage before they are formed, they are endochondral. But there are bones that they don't need to turn to cartilage; they just turn to bone straight. Those are intramembranous bones. So those are the two things you need to understand if you want to get the concept of bone development, bone formation very well: intramembranous and endochondral ossification. And I've said, don't forget that both of them are powered with one thing called mesenchyme. It is mesenchyme that will give access to either intramembranous or either it is going to be endochondral ossification. So this is where I'm going to be stopping today, guys. Feel free to go over the lecture again and get something you need to get there. The concept of bone formation, how the bone came, and how you are going to classify the bones based on their formation and based on the ossification. I've said that bone formation is also referred to bone ossification and bone osteogenesis. So in my next lecture, I'll be talking about some other things that you need to know concerning your bone and those things that you need to be doing to give you a healthy bone and also to enjoy your bone very well. So we'll see you in the next class, guys. Do well to subscribe to this channel, because if you don't subscribe, All right, I will be seeing you in the next class. Do it to like, do it to comment, and do it to. If you have any question as a student or as a technician, drop it at the comment section. I will attend to it. And if you need my number for guidance and counseling, my number will be displayed on screen. All right, guys. See you in the next class.